In this video, we're going to talk about the minimum wage. So let's talk about the federal one first. And you just heard about this not that long ago. The federal minimum wage, as of right now, and today's date is December 2nd, 2023, the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. And according to the Department of Labor's website, 23 states follow this wage. So in other words, they don't establish their own, they just go along with the federal minimum wage. That's totally fine. But then there are 27 states which have adopted a higher minimum wage, and they pay greater than 7.25 an hour. A perfect example would be the state of California and, of course, the state of New York. The cost of living in those areas is much higher. And of course, those states know that if they pay a minimum wage of 7.25 an hour, they're going to have a lot of people living on the streets. So they establish their own minimum wage that's much higher, in some cases double. So basically, to keep it short and simple for you, if you're in a situation where, let's say you're a restaurant in the state of Arkansas, you need to pay $11 an hour because that's the state minimum wage for the state of Arkansas. But the question sometimes comes up is, hey, what if my employee lives in another state but works in another state as well? So I'll give you a perfect example. I live in the state of Louisiana. Let's say that I live in Hammond, Louisiana, which is exactly where I am, and I come over to the state of Arkansas and work in your restaurant every single week, and I just stay in Arkansas while I'm working. Well, you might ask yourself, well, what minimum wage do I have to pay this person? It doesn't matter where I live. Now, for tax purposes, that might be a different story, but for wage purposes, it's where am I physically working? Where am I doing my work from? And this also comes up with remote employees. But if you own a restaurant, you shouldn't have remote employees. You're basically going to have everybody in the restaurant. So you have to pay the higher of the two. So remember, whatever state the employee is working in, you pay that minimum wage. If I work in the state of Louisiana, you pay me $7.25 an hour. Clean cut deal. If I work in the state of Arkansas, you can see if it's $11 an hour, you must pay me $11 an hour. Now, why do you even need to know minimum wage? Well, I'm going to give you a perfect reason why. So far in 2023, 23 out of the 72 restaurant cases which was reported this year had minimum wage violations, meaning they didn't pay somebody at least minimum wage. They paid under it. In some instances, some of these restaurants didn't even pay their people the required 7.25 an hour. They paid less than this. And a lot of that had to do with that they withheld tips from these folks. Now, just to give you an idea, if you're saying this isn't that big of a deal, well, imagine over $18 million in back wages and penalties were charged back to these employers. So half of that, as you can look at, $9 million were the actual wages they owed, but because of the situation, those restaurants owed an additional $9 million in liquidated damages. So it's a really important mechanism and something you should pay very close attention to.